coherently think about designing a learning experience is to start with this process here. And so I just gave an example of, the little activity that we did today. This might be an example of a lesson that I'm building or a learning experience that I'm building. And my concept is, for a continuous flow of electrons, there must be a complete path or circuit with no gaps. Okay? So probably if I were doing this with a second grade class, which I would, and I have, I wouldn't have a concept statement that that complex. That's probably more of a middle school level, or maybe like an ICP in high school. And then I turn it into a learning goal, okay? So for this is what I want them to learn. That means that they will be able to distinguish between pictures of circuits and non-circuits. And that means that given a battery, a bulb, and a wire, they'll be able to light the bulb with at least 2 of 4 different configurations that are complete circuits and on, okay? Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 1, but that's for you to decide. So in your display or your project, whatever you do, you want to make sure that you think about what it is I'm going to have students actually do that's related to the concept. And so how might I assess that? Well, maybe I'll have a worksheet with some pictures, and they have to circle which ones are complete circuits and which ones aren't. Maybe there's several sets of materials that I'll lay out, and one by one you'll have to come up to the table and you'll have to put together a battery, bulb, and wire 2 different ways and show me that you can do that. Maybe you'll do it in a lab, and I'll walk around and just make sure that everybody is able to do that. And if you're in a group and your partner's done it but you haven't, I might say, could you please show me another configuration that your partner hasn't done. You can also have several sets of materials that exhibit the circuit and a non-circuit, and have them tell you which ones on the table are circuits and which ones aren't, or group these together as circuits and the ones that aren't, and then tell me why these aren't circuits. What's wrong? How would you turn them into circuits? Those are possible assessments. So that has implications for what I need you to do. And so that's why I had you start with building a simple circuit, okay? And then this part right here, this is if you would develop a complete lesson. And I understand in EPICS that you're building experiences a lot of times that students can come and sort of tinker and play and then walk away, that you don't necessarily have a lesson that you're teaching per se. But if you ever have an experience where you're going to be designing a lesson, you might want to consider using a series of phases in your lesson. The one that you did last week was what I would call the preliminary phase, where you started and I said, just draw what you think. Okay, often uncomfortable. As the older we get, the more uncomfortable it is to put our ideas down, because we don't necessarily want to be wrong. But why is it important to write down your ideas? Why is it important?
So that the teacher can know what information you do know and what you're still looking to understand.
That's right. So the teacher needs to know. Who else needs to know? What's the second part of that? You need to know. I'm sorry?
You have to start to think about it yourself.
Yeah. Remember, you need to know what you don't know, what you don't understand, and what you need to understand. And so it's really not just for the teacher's benefit, it's for the learner's benefit. Okay? And then the concept development phase, we started to do that. We didn't do it fully, but that's where I let you take the batteries, bulbs, and wires and put together what your pictures showed. And then if it didn't light, to revise it. Okay, so the concept development phase is really what we might consider the lab or the activity itself. Okay, but this is where they have the experience where they can build the understanding. This part right here is often overlooked, the making sense phase. The making sense phase is where the students really continue to expend the mental energy, but in a more formal way, where you're asking them to build the explanation. Oftentimes, what I see, especially with my beginning teachers, is that they're excited about what happened in the lab, and they want to tell the students not only what happened, but why it happened. Okay? And that's where the teacher's expending the mental energy. The student's got to be the one to make. Have you ever had a lab where you took a bunch of data and you just didn't know really why you did the lab? Come on, be honest. We've all been there, right? You're doing the lab, you're doing everything that it says, but you really don't know what it's all about. Okay? It takes mental energy to figure through that, and once you start building the explanations and have these aha moments, that's when you're really learning and beginning to understand. And then finally, the application phase. So what I might do if I want to integrate a little bit of design into my physics lesson with circuits is I would have, and I think I told you about this, the students take what they learned about circuits and design an alarm for their locker where they have to be able to disable it themselves so they can get in their locker without it going off, but it still protects whatever goodies they have in their lunchbox. Okay. All right, so again, my name is Lynn Bryan. My email is right there. And I'd be happy to work with any of you or put you in touch with some of my colleagues and graduate students, people that are working in this area. If you need some advice or ideas or want to check something out with your project or, you know, have us consult with you, we'd be happy to do that. If you're interested in, you know, learning more about learning, we do have a STEM service learning in China coming up this summer. And so my colleague in the Department of Physics and Astronomy, the outreach director, David Cederberg, and I, and my assistant director, Drew Ayers, three of us take a group. Usually we only have one or two education majors. We have computer science majors, engineering majors, different science majors who come with us, and we teach a design-based, project-based lesson in 4th and 5th grade classrooms in Nanjing, China. It's 1 week here and 2 weeks in China, and I think the fee is somewhere around $4,000, and that doesn't include the airfare. But if it's something that you'd like to dabble in, you just like to give teaching a try, but you're not interested in going into teaching, that might be a nice option for you. You can contact me. If anywhere along the way in your studies you decide that you were really interested in teaching, I just want you to know that on campus we have two types of scholarships that we offer. One is a $10,000 scholarship per year for students who are interested in teaching elementary or secondary STEM disciplines. And we also have a new scholarship program that'll be starting that is for juniors and seniors. That's $15,000 a year scholarship to go into STEM teaching and learning at the secondary level, middle and high school. So if you ever get to the point where you think about that you'd like to go into teaching, just let me know, and we've got lots of resources, and we've got a great program here at Purdue for you to be a part of. So, any questions? Finished a little early? Next week, Dr. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I did want to know how you suggest for one big problem with EPICS is that we have trouble contacting specific areas and schools to get in contact with their students, so that we can't create like first dialogue to figure out what the students know already. I wanted to know if you had any advice for us to do that.
That would be something you could contact us at Catalyst. You could contact me if you need access to schools. We can help you out with that. So a lot of us do research in schools. We might even be, you know, looking at some of the topics that you're interested in. But we have a lot of contacts with teachers. We have partnerships with schools and school districts. So we definitely could help you out with that. Be happy to do that. That's a good question. You know, I think a lot of the principals around here are really nice people, and you probably could say, I'm a student at Purdue with the EPICS program, and we're designing da-da-da-da-da for this grade, and wondered if there was any way we might be able to come over and observe a class and talk to a few students about this topic, and they probably would let you come. Probably be able to do that too, but we definitely have lots of contacts. Yep. Other questions? So next week, I think it's going to be Dr. Seljan Guzi. She's actually going to, we were thinking this session might be about elementary students, but I wanted to finish up what we did on learning. So she's going to do sort of a profile of elementary, middle, high school students, what the nature of the student is. And then Paula Sunda, who's so Dr. Guzi is a professor in curriculum and instruction and biological sciences. And then Dr. Paula Sunda is from PPI, the Polytechnic Institute, and curriculum instruction, and he'll talk with you more about assessment, issues of assessment in learning during your last of the 4 sessions. So, okay. Well, thank you very much.